Good evening, folks. Chris in Central Pennsylvania. Emotional and dishonest commentary are not helpful and very misleading for a community long distrustful, and for good reasons. South Africans in general and Afrikaners in particular have long been betrayed by a procession of verraaiers, leugners, and betrügners. What you post on social media, what you tell others, how you share information is and will be amplified by the naysayers who lie about everything in every way possible. Now, this is not to say that one should hide the truth or skip over less than desirable facts, even when they're inconvenient. I often criticize President Trump when he lets us down, and I tell the truth when he succeeds. The truth should know no narrative. The truth does not care about narratives, but telling the truth is not the same as feeding cockprodders. From the outset on February 7th, 2025, I told my audience and my readers that this refugee program will divide families, that it will not be an easy thing starting over in a strange new land. Even with cultural similarities, it's not easy. I've lived in over a dozen countries and can tell you firsthand about moving abroad in the 1980s, the 1990s, the aughts, and the teens in this century. Even with resources, it's a challenge. I've also told you that this is not an immigration program. It's not a vacation. We don't care about your success or your skills or your CV, nor do we care about your maladies. They're not germane. This is for victims of persecution whose futures and or lives are in jeopardy. Done and dusted, finished in Clar. There should be no confusion. Don't tell me that you're a nuclear physicist. It doesn't matter. Don't tell me that you're a street sweeper. It doesn't matter. Now, there have been some problems with this effort, not the least of which I've repeatedly been upfront about and highlighted in objective fashion. The reality that refugees normally have to wait many years for consideration and relocation to the United States, something that too many South Africans seem oblivious to. There are far too many "I have not heard anything in 2 or 3 months" stories and comments and complaints from people. Seriously, 2 or 3 months? Try 8 or 10 years. The opaqueness of the U.S. government in this approach to establishing an in-country program and its execution has been less than desirable. The seemingly random approach to approving cases and flying people to America, people in obvious danger sitting in South Africa with attempts on their lives, while latecomers seem to slide on across the ocean with little or no fanfare and short waits. The crappy, inappropriate attitudes of some leftist case officers and agencies who fail to provide even the most basic of services which we, the taxpayer, have provided to refugees. The cancellation of flights in the current fiscal year owing to the Democrats' stupid political games, the odd cancellation for many travelers later in January, and now the 15-day suspension of flights with no clear explanation as to why. All are no doubt frustrating. And I've been upfront, honest, and objective about them each step of the way. These and other problems do exist. However, they are far from showstoppers or the end of the world. But that doesn't mean that angry folks should spew their irritation and frustration on social media with distortions and lies. Verraaiers are watching in South Africa and on this side of the Atlantic. So many bigots, racists, and traitors want to see South Africans, especially white ones, fail, either out of blind hatred for Trump or their uninformed bigotry of South Africa's history, particularly the last 32 years. I was somewhat concerned about reporting negatively about the program, especially as the number of arrivals had begun to climb, as I knew this would be cannon fodder for liars, fake media, and hate wankers, especially in South Africa. You see, they lie about everything, including the facts. The media can't even bring itself to be honest about the legal term refugee because they're bigots and racists, constantly putting quotation marks around the term refugee for legitimate refugees. They also give oxygen to Canadian immigration recruiters, ANC politicians who openly lie about the program, and even convicted prostitutes over the views and analysis of university lecturers, published authors, and recognized subject matter experts, all because they need useful idiots to parrot and spread their lying narratives. But the truth does not want or need narratives. Hence my reason all along for being objective and honest about this stuff and reporting the good and the bad. This video is a follow-up to my latest release focused on the social media commentator who insulted Food Socks and lied about the company. Since I released that video a few hours ago, I've had a conversation with the founder of the Facebook group where that comment appeared. They did post my retort and let me join their group and also discuss working together in the future. I'll explore that. But let's review what has happened over the past couple of days, today specifically. The United States government paused departures for approved refugees from 23 February to 9 March with no explanation. This is unfair for families who had tickets. But the 20,000 plus refugees who had their carpet pulled out from under them a year ago have it much worse than South Africans who simply need to muck and plan for 15 days or perhaps longer. The commentator on Facebook falsely accused and attacked food socks and the generosity that we kindly offered to help those in need. Not only was this rude and disrespectful, but also a criminal act. Doing so as a coward with no attribution in a closed Facebook group is even worse. If you don't want the generosity, then don't ask for it, don't mention it. But some people need it. Netwerk24 editors played clickbait with a perfectly good and objective story posted behind their paywall, where the media giant dishonestly posted a photo of the Stoltz family, one I personally took myself and owned the rights to, without any attribution on the photo. Mind you, below the clickbait title, Offer Connor in New York, we live in a dirty basement full of mold. Now that is not only morally bankrupt, it's also a lie. The journalist never stated that, and the source never said that. I have the electrons from the conversation to prove what was actually stated. No one can hold Ronald Lamola to account for lying about the refugee program, nor South African media for using quotation marks to mislead readers when mentioning South African refugees. However, the lies on YouTube and in print about Thea van Straten will become actions the perpetrators regret when eventually presented with legal papers. Madeline Rowley from the Free Press opened a can of worms that, frankly, was already open, but didn't get much daylight because it wasn't coming from major media outlets. And that can was already open thanks to Shelley Hepburn and myself. Now, I cannot speak for others' motivations, but I went to the people. I investigated on the ground before making a big stink about this subject. And as I knew exactly what furriers would do and how they would use it, the information to misuse it. Now, folks, if you're disappointed in the refugee program, walk away. Run if you need to, but go. Don't mislead, lie, or insult others because you don't get your way. The things you post and say are cannon fodder for verraaiers, liars, leugners, and betrügners. Every time a South African refugee turns their nose up at free offers of food or accommodation, and you post it somewhere on social media, you present ammunition for liars who say, see, not real refugees, but privileged white people. When you misrepresent your situation, you give them even more ammunition. When you lie, you join the community of verraaiers and betray your own people, South Africa, and the generosity of America. Tell the truth. If it's not good news, then it's not good news. But embellishment, exaggeration, emotional screaming and ranting are not accurate reflections on the generosity of America, nor of other South Africans who attempt to assist you. And that should be enough on this topic, but we know it'll continue. When you mislead, you hurt others by dissuading people who are already being lied to about this program. They still believe it's for white farmers. It's never been for white farmers, and it's not for white farmers. But people believe that because the verraaiers and the fake media, the legacy media in South Africa, continue to lie about it. What are you going to do? Be part of the problem, be part of the solution. If you're not interested in being a refugee, fine, but don't lie about the program. If you want to be a refugee and your feelings are hurt, fine, but don't lie about the program. If you get here and there are shortcomings, share them, and we'll report them, and hopefully things will improve. But this nonsense has been going on now for a year in the media, on social media, by people who have demented hatred of other South Africans needs to stop. What say you, South Africa? Mzansi. Cheers.